Okay, ready to go, Matt? Happy? Perfect. So welcome everyone to the Safe Hands Management System webinar. Hopefully you've all had been able to log into it. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Ben Osborne, recently joined Somerset Cricket Foundation, joining Matt's team in the club and league development side. We've also got Matt on the call tonight. Just a bit of housekeeping before we get going. So if you could stay on mute if possible, we will pause for questions at 2 points in the evening. So if you do have anything there, feel free to shout up and ask there, or in the chat box, I'll be monitoring that and answering any questions you may have as we go along. When you're using the chat function, if you can make sure you do it to everyone so everyone can see, and then any questions that either myself or Matt can't answer will be followed up in due course after the meeting. There we go. So purpose of this evening, obviously we want to understand what the Safe Hands Management System is, what benefits it can be for your club, managing your volunteers, whether it's DBS checks, coaching qualifications, etc. To better understand how to use the system as a club administrator, so to make life as easy as possible for yourselves. We'll touch on the view from a club officials, it's slightly different to a volunteers, where to find help and support and the options you have available, and then to understand what the next steps are and how you roll this out to your club or make more use of it if you are already using it. I'll now pass on to Matt, who will go through the main part of the evening.
Thanks, Ben. So I'll just right. So what is a Safe Hands Management System? Ultimately, it's very interesting that of all the attendees who have booked to come tonight, there are a third of the clubs attending who have been on it since day one. There are a third of the clubs who've been on it since last year, and there are a third of the people on this who are brand new. So there is going to be a range of different knowledge. So it's a bit of a one-stop shop for everyone. So what is the Safe Hands Management System? So it's been introduced by the ECB to support clubs with ensuring individuals and volunteers have valid qualifications for their roles. So a better way of managing. So what's happened over a number of years is me or Brian or any of the team might get an email from someone going, has so-and-so got a DBS? Has so-and-so got this? So this is actually a system, which means that as clubs, you can manage this yourself. So ultimately, you input onto the system the key individuals who are in regulated roles. So regulated roles are people who require a DBS. And I will go through that a little bit later on which people that is, so you've got an idea. The system shares information from the ECB DBS system, and also Safe Hands qualifications for safeguarding officers. It doesn't add first aid and online safeguarding qualifications, but that will be in the next iteration of this. So there's been a few those who've been on it since day one would have noticed there's been different changes over the years. And this year is all about making sure every single club in the UK is on this system. Clubs should work towards getting compliancy on the system. So that's meaning all volunteers are on the system. They've accepted their role, and this corresponds with the various club information that you have to put on the system, which I will show you a little bit later. The system, as I said, enables you to manage all your safeguarding requirements at your club, and thus making it a better improving safeguarding standards across the game, ensuring that we have a safe game for all. What are the benefits of the system? So it's a user-friendly system on the whole, and I will say that now. It's an online system and it's readily accessible for all now. As previously said, clubs can proactively managing safeguarding compliance with any of the legal responsibilities that clubs have regarding safeguarding. It does require some work up front to get everyone on the system and online, but beyond that, it it is ultimately then you are managing people who are changing within your roles. So you can look at it at different points of the year to find out, has this person still got their DBS place? Is our safeguarding officer still compliant, so we can often play within our leagues? So it gives you, but it also gives you up-to-date, accurate information. So it pulls everything live from the ECB databases. So if you've done a course, it will go onto their database and it pulls through to this system. So it's live and up to date. One of the main benefits of the system is if you are actively on it and you are engaging with the system, you can claim free public liability insurance from the ECB, which has saved some of the clubs who have done this in the first instance. The highest amount of saving we've seen so far is over £2,000, but this is regularly saving clubs hundreds of pounds. And I will show you where you can claim that later. There is also an ECB help desk, and there's system help guides, video tutorials, which can help you navigate the system. And there is support from the Somerset Cricket Foundation team, whether that's from myself, Ben, who's on the call, Brian, or Nikki. So who is a regulated role in cricket? So on this screen, you will see a hyperlink saying roles listed as DBS required. These slides and the recording will be sent to you in the next couple of days. So you will be able to refer back to any of the slide deck. But if you click on this link, it will take you to the ECB website and the safeguarding area, and it will list all the roles within cricket which would require a DBS check. So, and we've listed quite a lot of them below as well. We have also highlighted on this ECB qualified coach, because this is something that we have learned over the years. So this is a top tip for new clubs going onto the system, and you have people you perceive to be coaches. It is worth checking what qualification they have got. So regularly we have found over the 2 years that the system's been up and running that people will be added to the system as a coach, but they don't actually have a coaching qualification, which then does cause some problems with compliancy later down the line on the system. So you can click on that hyperlink and it will tell you what qualification equates to being a coach. So your club will have team managers, it will have a safeguarding officer, it will have a first aider, open age team captain, scorers, umpires. Could have any of these roles which you would add, but your club also needs on the system a club administrator. So that is the person who is responsible for managing the system, and many of you on the call will already be that person. And you'd also need the club chair listed on there. These people do not need a DBS on the system unless they have another role listed, i.e. you could be the chair, but you're also a coach. You could be the chair and you could be the safeguarding officer. You could be the club administrator and hold a different role within your club. Okay. At this point, because there's a fair bit of information there, Ben, has there been any questions in the chat box?
No, nothing so far. Anyone?
Excellent. So if you have a question, please type it in the chat box and we will pick it up, and you can do that throughout the rest of the evening. So what I'm going to show you now is various different screenshots of the system. So some of this will be really familiar for people who have seen the system already and have got access to it. But if you are new or will be going onto the system, this will show you what you will see at different stages. So when you do get access, it hopefully will look a bit more familiar, and you'll be able to look back at these at a later date. So let's click through. So first of all, so when your club is onboarded to the Safe Hands management system, you will get an email which will look like this, saying important, your ECB invites join Safe Hands management system. And you follow the instructions and you read through the email to the point where it says, what do you do next? At this point, it says to access SHMS, accept your role, you will need an ECB account. If you've already got an ECB account, you should be able to log in and accept the role. So you would click here, log in and accept the role. If, as a person, you don't want this role and this has gone to you erroneously, you can click on reject role and you get rid of it. When you click on the login role, it will take you to a screen which looks like this. It has changed very slightly, but it still says register and sign in when you get there, because there's just been some very recent updates on the system. And you would either click register if you're logging in for the first time, or sign in if you've already got an account. If you're signing in if you're signing in returning, you will go to a screen which looks like this, where it's got your dashboard, my profile, my roles, login details, sign out, but more importantly, a club dashboard here, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. If you log in for the first time, you will get a welcome. So you'll get a welcome and you need to review your profile details. So you basically fill in all the information that you need about yourself into here. It is vitally important when you fill this in that you use your legal name. So what is on driving license, what is on passports, as an example. So I'm known to everyone as Matt, but my full name is Matthew. So if I was to put Matt in here and then council in surname, when it comes to matching information, there is a risk that the system will not pick it up because it works on matching of information. So we encourage people to use their legal name because that is what will be on DBS checks. So you would complete everything which is requested on here, and then you click confirm, and that sets up your profile. So from here, it will take you back to this page once you're registered, and then you can click on the club admin button. So you would click on club admin on the page which looks like this. And once you've done that, it will take you to the dashboard. And if it's the first time you've gone in, it will show the roles which you've been invited to accept. So on this, it's showing it is accepted, but if you're logging in for the first time, there'll be an action button here and you can click on action and that will take you to accept your role. But this will just show you here what roles you've got at the club. There are some people with many roles on this call. You would go through the admin page again. So I'll click straight on. So once you're in the admin section, there are 4 elements to complete: the club information section, contacts and officials, teams and programs, and venues and insurance. So the first section that everyone should complete is the club details. So some of this information will pull directly through from Play Cricket. So this is a case of going through, checking all the details are correct and filling in all the mandatory fields. And once you've done that, you click confirm, which will be at the bottom of this page. So you fill all of that in to make sure everything is complete. You then have your contacts and officials. So this screenshot shows one which is quite populated. If you're going on for the first time, it is probably going to only have the club administrator on to start with. And you will see on this page, there are 2 buttons, add role and new official. So you would click on new official to set up a new person, as it shows on there, to highlight. And then it's set, and then you've got the person's details. So you would enter that person's legal first name, legal surname, their email address. There's a nice little button there to check contact details. This helps to check if also someone is already on the system, and we'll cover that in a minute. Once it confirms that this person is a valid person, below it will bring up the screen. So I will jump backwards and forwards. It will bring up a screen where it shows the roles which that person does. And all you do is where it says select all roles that apply, you click on the relevant ones. So it could be they've only got 1 role. It could be they've got 2 or 3. You go click, 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 and then you press submit. And that will generate an invite. also, so there's an add role function. The add role function is for adding an additional role to someone who's already on the system. So if, for example, Ben at his club, he's currently the club secretary, but he becomes a team captain, and so he needs a DBS, you would click on the add role button. It would bring up this page. You would click on select contact. You'd find Ben's name, select Ben, select his role, and you'd send it forward. And you keep doing that section until all your people are on there. Okay. We've then got teams and programs. So this is a very quick update where you input what cricket you offer, and then the number of teams that you've got, whether it's adult, junior, and then participants, female, male. This is really important that this is filled in, because if it's not filled in, it won't recognize any when you input coaches, which is a requirement on the system, or captains, it will never get compliant. So it's really important that if you've got 5 adult teams, for example, you have 5 DBS captains on the system. So if you haven't got the same number of captains, the correct number of teams you've got, you will not get compliant on the system. Okay. And one thing that we have found in the last 12 months, certainly in the second phase of this, the ECB have been cross-referencing more and more with play cricket, and there has been occasions where captains have ended up being suspended because they're on play cricket as a captain, but they're not on safe hands, and clubs have been putting different people in those roles. So it's important that you keep this up to date. The last section that you would fill in is venues and insurance. So on here, you click new venue, you add the ground that you play at. And if you've got multiple grounds that you use, you add all of them on here. To claim your free insurance, you must set up a risk assessment. So you would click new risk assessment down here. And then what this will do, it will take you to Howden's, the insurance provider for the ECB, and you will complete a 20-question risk assessment about various things to do with your club, and you will end up with a risk score. It does not matter whether your risk score comes in at 0 or 100, you will still get the insurance if you fill in everything correctly. So once you've put in your risk score, there is also below there when your insurance expires. You put your expiry date in there, and then on your expiry date, it will trigger the new insurance, and whoever is being inputted as your administrator will get an email with your new Howden's insurance policy. It is important to note that the insurance policy is public liability, officers' liability. It doesn't cover you for building and content, but you can still make some significant savings on that. Okay. The next section I'm going to walk through is how people accept an invite. So when you go back to your clubs and you start adding volunteers, you will have a bit more understanding of where they go and what they need to do. So a volunteer will receive an email. Best practice shows that actually, if you're adding someone to the system, you send them an email to say, look, you're being added to this system because it's important. Please keep an eye out for the email. And then the volunteer adds themselves and follows the instructions. So very similar process. So they get an email which looks like this. Very similar to what you would do the first time you log in. Log in and accept your role. And it would take you to the dashboard once you're logged in. And what they will have is a manage invite button. So they would click on the manage invite button. manage invite, brings up their then club roles. And it says here, club safeguarding officer, they're invited, the role is pending, and then you click on the action button, accept or reject. So hopefully they will accept it. You wish to accept this, you press proceed, and then it will show as accepted, and then it will go into, they've accepted the role, and then it's pending. It normally takes 24 hours from them accepting the role to just pull through everything to show whether they're compliant or not. So don't panic if someone comes to you, I've accepted my role, but it's saying I haven't got this. It can just take 24 hours just to update. So don't panic straight away. If it's 2 or 3 days and stuff hasn't come through, that is when you can raise some questions. So the system, there are lots of different help guides and help videos to show people how to walk themselves through the system. So there is a total system walkthrough video, which has been produced this year. It's brand new. There's one on how to log in and update profile. There's one on how you complete your club details. One how to add teams and programs. One to view different notifications. One to add contacts. Dealing if there's any errors on the system. So common things which can happen. How you remove contacts if they've gone through. Where you access reports. So it's cut. There is so much on the help guide which you can get a lot of self-help on. Ben, actually, probably before I go through some of the top tips, I notice there's a lot of questions, and I reckon we should cover them now.
Yeah, no, there is a few questions. I'm struggling to keep up answering them at the minute. Just got a question, if you could mind answering, Matt, just on what the role volunteer coordinator is and why that requires a DBS check.
Yeah, so the role of a volunteer coordinator is ultimately, it's the person who tries to manage volunteers within the club. So they might manage getting people team managers, new volunteers within the club, but that also may involve getting under 18s involved volunteering at a low level. So they might volunteer within your youth coaching setup. So there is it's perceived within the ECB, there is a likelihood that they will come in contact with people under the age of 18. So that is why that role is deemed by the ECB to require a DBS.
Perfect. There's a few questions about problems logging in. I know there is a few issues with the ECB since they've done an update. I would recommend you contact the ECB Safe Hands Zendesk to try and just sort that issue. So if there's any there that I haven't got to questions, yeah, if you contact the ECB Safe Hands directly, they should be able to assist with that. It's not something we can do at the foundation. We have a question regarding the risk assessments. You need to complete them every year, Matt?
No, it's good practice too. It's good practice to update it every year, because obviously circumstances may change at a club. That I know different clubs that might have done upgrades on their facilities, so they might get a better risk score. There's no obligation. Once you've done it, they will keep that same risk assessment, but good practice would say do it every year, so then you just reassess your risk score. And it's quite good just to go through the process. It doesn't take that long either to do it. I haven't done it for my own club.
Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I've got everything. There's one regarding how do you change the teams under the teams and sorry, bear with me, I'm just losing myself here. If you need to change additional teams onto the system, you can do that once you've got club administrator access. You'll be able to do that under the teams and program section. Should be able to just go in and change that.
Yeah, so what you would do, if you click on the actual teams box where it green lights, if you click on it, it should make it editable, and you can just type away, and then it goes green when it recognizes the change. Sorry, I just thought you could have a visual cue on that.
Yeah.
But again, it's on this video here, video 3 will show you exactly how to do it in a live situation all the way through.
Yeah. And then there's a couple more questions which I will answer into the chat box now. I'll sort that out if you want to
Yeah.
come in.
Yeah, not a problem. I will get to the Zendesk and login issues in a minute further down as well. So do not panic on that. Right, so some of the top tips that we have picked up over the years that this has been in place. So you can add multiple roles at the same time. So our top tip is when you're doing it, work out who needs to be in what role at your club and what they are, and then go through them at each point. So right, so for me at my club, I'm a team captain, my coach, I'm an all-stars activator. So when I'm added, you add that, and then you add the 3 roles. So rather than going, oh, we haven't done that, so try and do it so people, all their roles get added at once. So they have to they log in once and accept the role once rather than having to maybe do it 2 or 3 times. This is highlighted because sometimes clubs need help doing this because the system doesn't always pull it through. That there are people who coach at multiple clubs or are members at different clubs. You can be added on 2 different clubs, but sometimes with the system, it sometimes will shout at you, this person is already on the system. And so if that happens, if you click on this little hyperlink here, there it will explain what you need to do in contacting the ECB, and they will duplicate that person across 2 clubs. It doesn't do it all the time, but it does do it in some occasions on that. There are automated reminder emails for non-acceptance. So if someone hasn't accepted their role, they get an automatic email from the system after 7 days and 21 days. But also a club administrator can send a reminder email. So when you're in the system and their role is still pending, you can click on that person and you can resend the invite. If a person doesn't accept their role after 45 days, the invite will automatically expire and you will have to re-add them. This is done to stop the system basically clogging up. From there, ensure that the correct roles are allocated to your volunteers. So that first little bit that I spoke about, try and do it first time round. Reminder, a contact can reject a role from an invitation email. So it is always worth letting the person know that you're going to add them to the system, because if they get an email a bit blind, they go, well, what the hell is this? Reject. And then reminder, as I said, when I was just going through what the system looks like, it's important you use full names as shown on their passports or driving license to match their DBS. Otherwise, it will not necessarily pull through the system from that. So some club requirements. So this is the different tranches of clubs, whether it been on it 3 years, 2 years, or first year this year. There are some different requirements, but at the moment, which is supported by the ECB. So if you're an existing Club Mark club, so you've been on it since day one, what is being asked is by the 30th of April, so the start of the cricket season, going into the 1st of May, there is an expectation that you are fully compliant on Safe Hands Management System. All your volunteers are up to date for the start of the year, that everyone's on there and you're compliant on the system. So that's if you've done Club Mark. If you're a club with a junior section or run national programs, we want to ensure, so these are the second year clubs, ensure that Safe Hands is fully reflective of your club's position of volunteers and they have DBS checks in place. So you've got people on the system, DBS checks are going through, and you are showing that you are really working on the system and getting to grips with it. Because ultimately you are a year behind club mark, and it is a club mark requirement to keep up with compliancy. All other affiliated clubs, so that's everyone who's never been on it until this year. By the 30th of April, we would like to make sure that you're on there with a club administrator, and you are starting to onboard your volunteers and populate SHMS, because we appreciate you're new to the system, you're going to get used to it, and at this point you probably won't get to compliancy. It is possible, but we just want to show that you're engaging with the system, just to reflect that people are at different stages. So Ben, we're stopping to see if there's any more questions come in at this point.
Not that I can see. There's no more questions that have been added that we didn't answer in the last break. Just let me double check that. No, not that I can see. Not that I haven't answered.
Excellent, thank you. So there's lots of support available getting used to the system. So there is an e-learning tutorial video which you can get when you go on there for the first time. On the bottom of every Safe Hands management page, there is a help form where you can click on it and you can start getting instant chat, or it will take you to an article to try and help you through the system. It's got, as it says here, pocket-sized search engine, pulls through different FAQs, tutorials, and there is a contact us form which will go straight to the ECB help desk. You can email if you do have any system issues. So one thing that has happened, and it does affect a small number of people, is that ECB have merged a lot of their sign-on systems. So to try and get it one login for multiple systems, we have become aware sort of in the last month that in some cases, someone is trying to log into Safe Hands and they can't log into Safe Hands anymore. Unfortunately, it says it takes you to, we're stumped, we can't log in. What has happened is in the process where they've linked all the single sign-on, they haven't done one of the connections to Safe Hands. To get this fixed, you email safehands@ecb.co.uk and they will do the linkage, and then you will be able to log back in. As it also affected Ben and Nikki in the office as well, so they couldn't get into their clubs the other day. And as I said earlier, there are various staff members, myself, Ben, Brian, our safeguarding manager at the foundation, and Nikki, who can all provide support on the system as and when you need it, want it. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Just ask away and we can point you in the right direction as required. Am I passing back to you now, Ben?
I think so.
Excellent.
Is
there another question which is relevant before I?
There's a couple more questions just come through.
Yep.
If you want to answer them. So why is a coach mandatory if they're just a one-side club and just play on a Saturday?
Yeah. What's the next one? Is it related?
No, it's a different question.
So basically, if you haven't got a coach, don't put a coach on there. Just put in what you have got. It is something which is, it will be sorted. So if you don't put you've got any youth teams on there, it won't recognize that you need a coach. So it does say it's mandatory because that's what it's been set up to, but don't fill it. If you haven't got a coach, you don't need to put one on there. Put on what you've got in the simplest form, because you won't fill in that you've got any youth teams on the system, as an example.
Cool. And then the last question we've got in previous years, the club needed a ratio of 1-to-1 junior team manager, individual to junior team. Is this still the case?
Yeah, so it's not. So junior teams is you need one manager per team that you've got. like you do with captains for adult teams. Coaching slightly different. So what you might find if you go on and you're adding coaches, you might be compliant, but it might flag that based on the number of children that you've got, you are not meeting best practice ratios. That is a warning. It isn't going to stop you from being compliant, but it's giving you an awareness that based on the number of children that you are coaching, you may want to consider getting some extra coaches in place. But as it is what I would call a literal system, it may not take into consideration that you have 72 kids and you coach 24 on one night, 24 on another night, and 24 on another night. So that's why it's set up as an advisory on there, if you get to there. Anything else come through, Ben?
No, there's nothing else, I don't think. If you have asked a question that I haven't answered or you need answering in further detail, just feel free to email me after the call and I can go through and sort out. Hopefully I have covered everything, either between me or Matt. So yeah, so I'll just move on. So next steps moving on from this presentation. So if you are a club that hasn't onboarded onto the SHMS yet, if you contact me via email, my email is hyperlinked on here. I'll be able to start the onboarding process with the ECB, and you should be able to get that through in a week or so, hopefully, now they're sort of starting onboarding. Just move on. There we go. So new clubs to the system. So hopefully all clubs that have onboarded over the last few months should now have had access. I believe some of them as well today, they should have received the email. So yeah, if you're new clubs, make sure that you've accepted the role as club administrator, update all the required information, including number of teams and players on there to make sure it's up to date. All clubs, and then yeah, all clubs making sure that before the season you've started adding your volunteers to the system, allocating them to the correct role. So hopefully before the season, you've got a true reflection of your volunteer base in your club, and they're all qualifications are in place for that one. We do have a template email that you can send out to your volunteers, just so they're aware that things are coming through, to make sure they're aware that they need to accept the role and what they need to do once they have that email through. And then club administrators, you are the ones that are responsible for making sure all your officers are on the system who hold key roles at your clubs. So just making sure you're logging on there, looking into it and seeing if there's any volunteers that need their DBSs. If you do need one, there's a link on there. We can initiate the DBS checks, or club safeguarding officers at your club should be able to initiate them as well, if need be, to do that. Okay. Thank you. Don't think there's anything else. Is there anything else you need to add, Matt? Is there any more questions that have come in that we want to answer before?
Yeah, just going through them because obviously I was clicking the screen for you. So I've got one. Can you add ex-captains who have had CRB checks? You can, but it's, or the question would be, why are you adding them if they haven't got an active role at the club? That would be the challenge back on it, is if they're not in a regulated role, why are they going on the system? Another one is, can you have more than one administrator on the system? It's quite simple. You can have as many as you like. There are some clubs with 5 admins. I wouldn't necessarily go that far, but some clubs, some of the larger clubs will have an admin who deals with all the adult, the senior cricket, an admin who deals with sort of the women and girls section, and then an admin who deals with youth cricket. Another one is, will you send through an email template? Yes, so the template email will go out when we send the recording and the slides. So that will either be tomorrow or Monday, depending on how easy or how long it takes us to upload the recording to YouTube. So it says, how do you get added administrator? So if you're already a club on the system, your current administrator needs to invite you as an admin on there. If you are a club that have never done it before, contact Ben and he will onboard you onto the system, and then you set up as an admin. So it will be, so each individual will get an admin invite. It'd be relevant to that person. For that, I've got a raised hand somewhere as well. Susie, do you want to ask a question publicly?
Yeah, it just might be easier because it was about that administrator adding that you were just talking about, rather than just trying to put more stuff in the chat. So we've got an administrator, but they're having difficulties logging on. So I did ask if it would be possible to just get another administrator added by someone at the foundation. Is that something you can help with or not?
Yeah, so we can't do that for you.
Okay.
Directly. So hopefully your club can do that. If your current admin is having difficulty adding you as an admin, email the Safe Hands email and they'll be able to do it for you. So we can't do any changes ourselves to club profiles. It would be great if we could, because we cut out the middle person. But unfortunately we got to go above us. So yeah, if the person can't do it, go direct to the ECB.
No, it wasn't that. It's more just these login issues that people have been talking about in the chat. It's not like not knowing how to do it.
Yeah. So yeah,
thank you.
That's where you go. There's another question coming in. Jane, did you want to ask a question? Jane, I think you're on mute at the moment.
Sorry, didn't know I was on mute on the system.
No, that's all right, not a problem.
Yeah, I was the one who asked about captains. In your small club, people quite often change roles every season and then come back. And if you've had a DBS CRB check, it's valid for 3 years as a volunteer, I believe, and gets renewed. I thought this system would help you keep tabs on everybody in your club who'd got those checks done. That's why I want to add people that aren't currently in a role, but who might come back into a role next year, say.
Yeah, so if you want to do that, you can. I think some of the dangers of that are if their DBS is expired and they're on the system, it will affect whether you're compliant on the system or not.
I see.
So you might not be in compliancy. And also with DBS now, they're on yearly renewal rather than lasting just for a 3 year. So what happens now is a person goes on the renewal system, and then each year they now get an email as of January. This is slightly changed from before. They get an email to say, are you still fulfilling this role, the role which requires you for a DBS? If you are, you need to click accept your role, and then it renews it again. So if that person then goes, I don't want to accept it anymore, their DBS will be gone. If that makes sense. So the reason the ECB have done that is there's a lot of people who maybe have a DBS in the country, and the ECB, unless you are in a paid role, or not like a lot of other sports, they make sure the DBS are free. That I think they've realized they're paying for a lot of people to have a DBS, and they're not actually doing they're not actually supporting cricket anymore. So they want to make sure that there is more accurate reflection on the number of people that got DBS who are still actually volunteering.
Okay, thank you.
That's all right, not a problem. If anyone, I think that concludes everything from our point of view. If anyone wants to stay on after the call, I'll stop recording, but they weren't brave enough to answer a question in front of everyone. Me and Ben will stay on for about 5 minutes after. So if you want to ask us any questions after we finish, if not, you are free to join the rest of your Thursday evening. Thank you for joining us, and we will make sure that we get you all this information by Monday. With a bit of luck, it'll come tomorrow, but I'm just going to manage expectation. It could be on Monday. But thank you all for your time.
Thank you.